Oh, here we go. Good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hopefully I am live. Hopefully you can hear me. I don't know if anybody's actually here yet. Not by the looks of it. I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds whilst I settle in for this one. Doctor Who, The Witchfinders, Series 11, Episode 8. And Chris is here. Hello! Yeah, I'm about to start. Just about to settle into this one. So I'm gonna start off with something that I didn't think I was gonna say. Alan Cummings, what a bloody good actor. I've seen him in plenty of things. You know, he's generally known for things like GoldenEye and X-Men. I loved his performance in this. I genuinely loved his performance. He was chewing the scenery like a son of a bitch, and then his performance changed. He was great in The High Life. Yeah. But the subtlety of his performance, because like people forget that these shows are recorded out of sequence. People forget that these shows are recorded when they have the availability. And if you watch his performance in this episode, he is so flamboyant at the start when you first see him, and then when the performance goes through the episode, he has that moment with Ryan, and then he has that moment where he's talking to the doctor tied up, and the performance is so nuanced, so it changes, because like at the start he is King James, Satan's greatest foe, and by the end of it he's more resolved, but the performance comes down in tone, and it's layered and timbered, and I thought it was a brilliant performance of him. I genuinely did. So where to begin with this episode? Okay, so the Tardis arrives in the early 1600s. I know this because he's King James I, and King James reigned from 1603 to 1625 in England anyway. And so it must have been in that time period. I don't think it mentioned it in the episode. I could be wrong, but I don't think it actually mentioned in the episode when the TARDIS actually landed. The TARDIS crew are looking around, same as usual. Everything seems calm, fine and normal. And then something disturbs the public. They go off to see what's going on, and it turns out there's a witch trial. I thought it was a good opener. I really thought it was a good opener. I really liked. I think someone said 17th century. Well, yeah, but that would still be the early 1600s. 1603 to 1625 would put it the 17th century. So they start off with. I know, lol. So we start off with the witch hunt, and I thought it was a cracking opener. I want to say this episode, this episode had a touch of familiarity about it, but it felt like Doctor Who. It felt like Doctor Who. There was something about this episode that really just went, all the elements are here. Everything's here. The only thing I felt was missing, and this is absolutely genuine, the only thing I really felt that was missing from this episode was that the Doctor did not have a theme. There was no Doctor score. Like, you know, with Matt Smith and David Tennant, we used to have the dun 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 dun. The Doctor hasn't got that, and I think that's what's suffering with the show. Not necessarily suffering, but it's an absent element. There is no kicking it into high gear theme. The music in the episode was solid. The music in the episode for this was good. When they were doing the drowning scene, there was this sort of rumbling drone, and then it built up to all these sort of little sort of tapping sounds as it was getting more intense. And then you had these sort of, later on you would have these violins picking the sound, the music. And then when the doctor was talking to Willa, it changed to a guitar theme. So there was a change in the sound, but the doctor in this show doesn't have a theme. There is no doctor theme. I thought it was a good episode for Jodie. I did think it was a good episode for Jodie. We've actually got an acknowledgement that being a woman does make a change to the doctor. They actually acknowledged it in this episode, where it's like, if I was still a man, I would find it much easier to do something. And I'm glad there was a bit of a shrug off on that as well. That it wasn't like, yes, it made things more difficult, but ultimately it still didn't matter. There haven't been any oncoming storm moments, or even the doctor being on the edge of his seat in danger, which I really, again, there was a bit of a step up moment last week where the doctor kind of went, you cross me and I will make you suffer. But you're right, that sort of element has been missing. It is something that I've been saying has been missing from the show since the first episode. And I've been trying to actually categorize it, but the oncoming storm reference is actually pretty much what I've been trying to grasp at. But yeah, that was. But I thought she had this really, the moment she had with Alan Cummings, with King James, where she was tied to the tree, that conversation that they had, it wasn't quite on the same sort of level as, the sort of Matt Smith at Stonehenge kind of speech, but it was a good. I liked the fact that she was referencing, you want to understand the mysteries of the universe, you got to start with the mysteries of the heart. And I liked the fact that I knew, he was going to say, okay, no. I knew it wasn't going to work on him just yet, because that's just storytelling. But I thought it was structured in such a way that I thought it told a good story. Draconian Dan, hello. I thought it told a good story. My biggest gripe with this episode, right, and here it is, and it's not really that big of a gripe. It's just I felt this story was kind of a rinse and repeat of Unquiet Dead. It was. There's nothing wrong with it in that sort of way, but it was a possession story, and these people had been barred from their planet. I'm King James, and I loved him. I genuinely did. I thought Alan Cummings, he had this Ace Rimmer feel to him. There was a smoke me a kipper, I'll be back for breakfast kind of feel. But yeah, I genuinely I thought he was great in it. Siobhan Finneran, I can't pronounce her name. You were just glad that he confiscated the Sonic. We'll get on to talking about the Sonic action. Siobhan Finneran as Rebecca Savage. I thought she was good. I hated that woman. Anytime somebody can portray a character to the point whereby she gets under your skin, that's good. That's really an enjoyable performance. And of course, she was. I'm trying to think what it was that she was in that I saw. I want to say it was like Holby City or something like that, but I just don't know. Knowing Chris Chibnall, it was probably one of his shows. But obviously, again, this episode was written by Joy Wilkinson, and she's actually worked on for the majority of on episodes of Doctors. You also felt that the cast were on point this week. Do you know, I still feel like the TARDIS is a little bit overloaded, but yeah, I think all the actors were actually pulling their weight. I felt like there wasn't a character that wasn't pulling their weight. Even the character of Willa, which is just a guest character, I felt like she was actually contributing to the advancement of the story. I liked the whole moment between her and Yaz, whereby Yaz explained to her that she was bullied in school, because that actually gives credence to the fact that she became a police officer, right? And that's kind of these are the sort of little character things that they've left out of this character since the first episode, which they're only small little things. They're only these small little nuggets, but they add to the character, and they make the character a bit more embellished and a bit more rounded. And I think, you know, I think they could do with a little bit more of that. I thought the makeup in this episode was fantastic. The Morax makeup was just absolutely amazing. I think having too many sidekicks makes it so that it's pretty hard to give enough focus on characters. Do you know, I think if you do it right, I'm not so sure that really it matters how many characters you've got, provided that you know exactly who these characters are when you're writing them. Because it's how much you want to hand off. So, right. It's not the amount of time you want to hand off to the characters, it's what you hand off to the characters. Because like I said, that little moment with Yaz, that was a beautiful little moment. There you go. And then it adds more to the weight to the character. But it's in line with what Yaz was saying, on her job and what she became and how it worked later in life. It made sense to her story. They managed it during the Peter Davison era. I would still love to have. I just give me an episode whereby the doctor's just walking down the street and she bumps into Tegan Javanka. Give me that moment, please, God. I enjoyed the episode. It was filmed in Llan Caich Fawr Manor. I botched that completely, but I loved the episode. That's where I'm going to start with this episode. I loved it. That's how I'm going to... I know, like I said, it paralleled and it was a rinse and repeat of Unquiet Dead, but I don't care. If you're going to piss on this episode, then... if I can't do another again, yeah. But this episode felt like... it felt like what's it called? Tooth and Claw, Unquiet Dead, those sort of episodes. It really felt like Doctor Who. There isn't much wrong with the show for this episode, but what am I looking at here? The mud effects. They were reasonably well done. But the plot was basically, like I said, it was that we're going to take over your planet, we're going to fill your people the same exact way of that they did with the Gelth. I was slightly disappointed when the creature let out the roar, and they said, "Oh, we are the Morax." I was really disappointed by that. Not because, here we go with a new creature, but because the roar just made me think Pyrovile. I don't know why, but I was just expecting, like, they're going to tie this back to an episode in the David Tennant era. And it was just there was a little moment where I was just expecting it to happen. I was just like, yeah, no, Morax, okay. All right, it's a new being. Fair enough. But I thought that given that the Pyroviles have been hidden under Vesuvius, and these ones were trapped inside a hill, I thought maybe there might be some sort of connection, and it turns out there wasn't. So, never mind. The King James Ryan scene. the King James and Ryan scene whereby Ryan is asking King James to open up. That scene stole the episode for me. I absolutely love that when he's explaining about his mother killing his father, being in prison, getting beheaded because he's obviously talking about Mary Queen of Scots. Then being raised by the regents and getting assassinated and one dying in mysterious circumstances. I was just that little moment where Ryan just giggles at him and just goes, "Oh wait, you're serious?" He's like, "Yes, I am. Yes, I'm very serious." So look here. The characters themselves are decent, but I think the relationship between the Doctor herself and her sidekicks are quite lacking in the comparison to past relationships. Do you know, I think in this episode it kind of explained what the relationships are between the Doctor and the companions now. That is that she kind of said, "Oh, it's a flat relationship." Then why is the show called Doctor Who? If the Doctor isn't the forefront leading character, if you're not the leading actor in your own show, then I think they are getting it slightly wrong. I do think Jodie done a brilliant job in this episode, though. I do think that she stepped up enough to the plate to. There were little moments that reminded me of David Tennant in this, actually. You know, like when she was bobbing for apples, and she comes back up and she says, "Oh, it's just a Sunday. Well, happy Sunday." She's still got an apple in her mouth. So there were those sorts of little sort of goofy moments. But I take what you're saying. There's definitely a lack of leadership from this Doctor. There's a lack of I am the Doctor. You're going to do it my way because if you're traveling with me, you know, it's the designated driver rule, right? So yeah, there's plenty that I liked in this episode. I thought that the explanation as to how they were locked in the hill, it's a very Doctor Who thing to have a techno tree kind of thing. I think it was a little bit underserved. I thought they could have done a little bit better on that, but it would have been probably worked a little bit better if it was like a monolith or like a druid circle or something like that, you know, something that is a very traditional British thing that's part of a British landscape. Because whilst trees are everywhere, it's those things are a little bit more unusual, right? Those sort of pagan circle of stones kind of thing. But yeah, I genuinely, I thought the visuals looked. I mean, the visual effects. I get tired of saying how great this show looks in terms of how the production values look. I thought they did a wicked job on the cinematography. There was some lovely moments whereby, because the cinematography was technically sort of very flat shot for most of the episode, but when it changed to a moment of drama, rather than just going in for a close-up, they would actually use power shots. So when it was like when King James sort of says, "I'm gonna arrest this witch," the camera was actually down low, looking straight up at him, and it was slightly Dutched. So it was like, okay, he's in charge, he's in control, but he's about to say something that's off kilter. And the camera work on it. And it was just like, do you know, they've actually been saving the camera work in this. Everything else has just been over-the-shoulder shots. But now, when it's gone into sort of serious drama stuff, the camera work's actually working for it. And I liked it. So, like, if there was one thing the BBC does well, it's period pieces. Yeah. I mean, the good thing, I want to talk about the costumes in a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's you got a period episode. It's set in the UK. It's set in you know, this sort of forestry area, and you're basically looking out for costumes and props. I think, they're able to sort of wangle these things together so that it actually works really, really well. I wish they would put as much attention into the futuristic stuff just as much. Create sets and costumes to that quality, because your space age costumes, the cinematography has been great. It has, yeah, it genuinely has. But like I said, with this episode, they were saving the shots. They were saving. It was shot very much like it was shot the way you'd shoot a soap opera, right? That's the most standard. These shots showing people leaving, showing people coming, but it was always in mid shot or wide. And then if you do a close up, it would be it would be this, right? But then when there was something twisted happening, the camera would be like this, or it'd be slightly over or slightly down. I mean, if somebody was in charge, then the camera would always be lower. Like when Jodie's tied to the tree and she's talking to him and she starts seizing the high ground, the camera actually drops. The camera's actually looking up at Jodie, but it isn't at the start of the scene. At the start of the scene, it's looking down on her. So it shows the sort of power shift happening. And when it gets to King James, it's actually looking down on King James because he's actually sitting down. But then it comes down level with him. So it shows that the two characters start leveling out. It was really well done. The shots on the eyes when the Doctor is on the ducking stool were superb. Yeah, they were doing these things whereby it was showing what she was observing. It was showing what she was actually, she actually goes, I noticed that. And instead of showing the actual character's reaction, it just stayed on the Doctor and stayed on her eyes. And it was basically sort of her sort of piecing things together. It was really well done. Like I said, for the most part, it was shot very plain, very normal, and then it would just pick these moments. That's what good cinematography does. You don't always have to go for, let's be the most creative shot here, let's be the most creative shot here. The choices were to save it, use it for this, use it for that, pick and choose, and it did it amazingly well. Back to what I was saying about the costumes. I wish the costumes that they did for the future episodes, the futuristic episodes, were as good as what they do for the period dramas. Because the ones they do for the period feel quality. They feel like layered. There's multiple levels of, this fabric is really nice and it's got this ornate trim to it, and then you've got this layer over the top of it, and then the jacket over the top of that, and that's got trims on it, and it's got braiding, and they just don't do it for the futuristics, and it's a shame because that's kind of the way it's always been. I mean, they have done it well in other episodes. There have been other episodes whereby I've looked at sort of again, I would say the aliens from Demons of the Punjab. I can't remember what they're called. The Jarians. They were beautiful costumes, but the mouths couldn't move. I suppose that have a fixed point of reference for all the clothing. Yeah, but that's the thing. You don't necessarily have to have a fixed point of reference to make a really good layered costume. If you think about it in terms of what you're making is a science fiction costume, then all the costumes, they're all the same. There's no real, a costume is a costume, whether it's a period piece or a futuristic costume. It's all just fabric at the end of the day. It's just that for some reason, when it comes to Doctor Who, they really sort of, it comes down to boiler suits and people wearing silver, which is just weird. I think the last time they done a really good set of futuristic sci-fi clothes. Let's think. Really good. I kind of like the ones that they did from Painted Bubble Wrap. Oh God. Yeah, you're not wrong. I think the ones that they did in what's the episode? I'm blanking on the name of the episode. Oh God. Never mind, it's gone. Point is that they don't do them well. And you've got plenty of examples of that. Like, for example, when they done Smile, they had the Future Colony. It was basically people wearing white jumpsuits. When they done 42, same thing. People in t-shirts and boiler suits. It was I had it in mind. Never mind, forget it. It's gone. There's no point in me even trying. But I thought that this episode was well paced. I thought it grabbed me from the start and said, "You're going to pay attention to this. There's an intriguing mystery going on. We're gonna get right into it. We're gonna the suits in the one where you paid for the air were good. That's the one. Oxygen. I couldn't remember what the name of the episode was. Oxygen. Yeah, but I'm just trying to think. No, what's it called? The one with the library. Bugger in hell. With the spacesuits, with the who turned off the lights. Those were good costumes. But even though they were basic, they were good. They had a real good design to them. They were recognisable. Forest of the Dead, of course it was. Sense of the Library, Forest of the Dead, yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, they were really good designs, and I feel like that the ones that they do these days aren't as well thought out, because you can get some really good sci-fi designs for costumes. We've seen it in films, we've seen it in plenty of other shows. Back to what I was saying though, with this one, the costumes look fantastic for the time period that it was doing. I thought the story panned out well. The Queen of the Morax, I'm not quite sure how that worked. She got stabbed in the leg and apparently was able to absorb the Queen in her entirety. I don't get it, but I'll go with it. Maybe I missed something. I might have to. It's worth a rewatch. And it is worth a rewatch because this really was some really good Doctor Who stuff. Yeah, like I said, the music has let this down for this episode, based on not because it was bad music, because the music has been fantastic, but because the Doctor doesn't have a Doctor theme. There is no Doctor theme, and there's no Doctor theme. There's no Graham theme. Best episode this series by country mile. I would say it's better than Kablam, and I like Kablam. Is it better than Demons of the Punjab? It doesn't have any dead elements like Demons of the Punjab, but Demons of the Punjab was a story that you could unplug the sci-fi element from, and it would still be a good story. So as a Doctor Who episode, yes, I would agree. Is it better than Rosa? That's a tough one. That's a tough one to beat, because Rosa was rocking up on all cylinders. Again, my problem with that is you didn't need the racist alien or racist future character in Rosa. It was a strong enough story without that character. But is it better than that? I don't know. Yeah, the baddie in Rosa let it down. He did. But again, I wouldn't have even done that. I wouldn't have if I had written Rosa, I would have literally had the TARDIS land in a place whereby it forced somebody to have to drive around their car, have to drive around the TARDIS, and them landing there would have caused that car to have hit a bus, which would have knackered the timeline, and they would have had to have put it right because they made the mess. That's how I would have done it. But as for that baddie, yeah, I think you could take that baddie out of the show because he was really a weak villain. And again, all the villains up until last week, up until Kablam, all the villains have been pretty, they've been they've all walked away in some way. They've all escaped, walked away, have gone unpunished. Kablam was like, right, this guy's got blown up. And this week it was a case of, okay, so people died. There was a death. There wasn't much death. I love the makeup on I don't want to call them witches, the sort of the Morak witches, I suppose. Yeah, there wasn't much death, but it was a case of putting these people back in their prison. But again, it was we're talking unquiet death, similar sort of thing. It was a case of sending them back through the portal, flooding them with gas, and in this it was smoke. So very parallel in story. The portal being the tree, rather than being the arch. But again, I can't really complain too much about it because I really liked it. I really liked this episode. I thought there was enough. They divided up the group enough in a way that every single person was advancing the story. Every single person had something to do, met a character that helped this story reach its conclusion. I just loved the piss. This is the most rewatchable episode of this season. And I watched, I watched Woman Who Fell to Earth three times. What was the one after that? The one with the race. What the hell is it called? What is wrong with my brain today? I've been up for a long time, I have, but there's no excuse. So yeah, I watched that three times. I think I've watched pretty much every episode 3 times. It wasn't Caves Van Rosani in Genesis, but a solid episode. Yeah, Ghost Monument. Thank you very much. Not my real name. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't the Genesis of the Daleks, but again, Genesis of the Daleks had 4 episodes to play with, which would have been a double episode, I suppose. Caves of Androzani, same sort of thing. So this was only a single episode. I did notice that it was 5 minutes shorter. That this episode was 45 minutes instead of 50. But the pacing seemed to be okay with it. I felt it was a little bit more exciting, if anything. So yeah, out of all the episodes that I've rewatched, I think this is the episode I could watch time and time again. I think this is the one episode, like, when you look back at the Capaldi series, you can sort of like go, I think I'm going to watch Heaven Sent. Or I think I'm going to watch, if you look back at Matt Smith, you're looking at sort of, I'm going to watch Demons Run, Good Men Goes to War. It's a very standout episode for how fun this episode was. I'm trying to think, because like I said, the makeup for the witches, I thought the witches were good. I wish they had a bit more to do. But when it came together, when it actually came together, I felt that they had a right amount of creepiness to them. I just wish there had been a little bit more, one of these witches just showing up in somebody's house or something like that, in one of these little villages. How do I feel about the rumor that Jodie is leaving? Oh, good question. So, I think, with what's happened this week, because the rumor was that Chris Chibnall said that he's probably going to leave after the 12th series, and Jodie has sort of said if he leaves, she's going to leave with him. The problem with rumors is that until there's been a real official statement, it could be just somebody on a boat somewhere blowing smoke. I quite enjoyed this episode. However, the series as a whole so far hasn't really met expectations. I'm going to get around to that just now, because I did kind of address that last week. But back to Jodie. if Jodie does decide to leave at series 12, the only person it will harm is Jodie, because the Doctor's not leaving, Jodie is leaving, and if that is the case, all Doctor Who actors are replaceable. Every single one of them. Look, everybody thought it was a travesty that Christopher Eccleston decided to call it quits after one season. It hasn't hurt any Doctor Who at all that he left. It hurt Christopher Eccleston because he ended up getting blackmarked from the BBC for a while, and that was a whole different sort of situation. I can't really get into that. Keith Purcell has joined us. Hello, Keith. So yeah, it's not going to affect the Doctor any. It's not going to affect the show any, because the show will just go on with a new Doctor. If it is true that Chris Chibnall is leaving based upon, because what I've heard is that Chris Chibnall is leaving because he himself isn't happy with the amount of control that he has over the show. So this could be a power play. This could be if what he wants is more control over Doctor Who, then it could just be a case of give me more control or I'm leaving and so is my Doctor. I think it depends on really what's happening behind the scenes. We really don't know enough to be able to make a judgment call. And again, with rumour, it could just be somebody on a board somewhere blowing smoke. It could be true. If it is true, then she'll just slip into the Colin Baker slot, right? It'll be the same sort of thing. Because the shame with Colin Baker was the fact that he didn't really find his groove until his second season. You heard that Jodie won't work with anyone other than Chris Chibnall. That's not a great reason to give up the part, surely. All Doctors have, though. That's the thing, you know. When JNT came on in 1980, you know, where Tom Baker just stayed for the rest of his contract and then he left. When Russell T Davies left, so did David Tennant. When Moffat went, so I know it's not a great reason. It's definitely, again, my problems with what Chris Chibnall has apparently done with Doctor Who this year, one of the things is that there's a lot of Broadchurch actors in this show. Like he seems to be hiring his mates, and this is, you know, the good actors. I'm not knocking them for hiring good actors, but it just seems to be the wake of Broadchurch. And let's have a look. Where else was I? So if Jodie does leave, it'll be a shame because she hasn't found her groove yet, and she's getting there. And this episode was a good step. Last week I thought was a good step up. This week was another good step up, though a little bit more evenly spread. So she needs to find her Doctor. She needs to stop. She needs to stop letting people railroad the character to just be standing there in the background watching, because they've said that this Doctor's supposed to be more empathetic, but you can be empathetic but still command the room, and she doesn't command the room. So yeah, if she does leave, if Chris Chibnall leaves, I mean, they've had 3 people now in charge of Doctor Who that have been Doctor Who fans: Russell T Davies, Stephen Moffat, Chris Chibnall. I'd get back Andrew Cartmel. I'd make him an offer. I'd be like, how do you fancy showrunning Doctor Who? I'd see what he's up to, see if he'd be interested. Put enough money on the table, I'm sure he'd turn his head. Philip Hinchcliffe, would Philip do it though? That's the thing. I mean, I don't know how old Philip is now. He's got to be getting on a bit though. But I think Andrew Cartmel might be young enough to still sort of want to take up the job. So where was I? Where was I gonna? I quite enjoyed this episode. However, the series has my expectations. Yeah, I've already. I think I just covered that. I've read the journey. Yes, we've already covered that as well. So as for going back to what I was going to say about earlier about the sonic screwdriver. Yes, the sonic screwdriver is still being used ridiculously. And the fact that King James took the sonic offer was a great little thing. It is this wonderful wizarding world of Doctor Who now, isn't it? With all this, and it can do everything. It used to be used for the simplest of analysis, and now you can diagnose somebody by pointing it at them. It's a be all end all of. It's better than a tricorder. Yeah, I think some of the best Doctor Who happens when you don't have the sonic. I would put a stop to it. I did like the fact that he confiscated it though and left it sort of tied up. It allowed them to have that moment. It allowed them to have that conversation, and yeah. But again, my feelings on the Sonic are it's an overused toy anyway. It's for selling toys and nothing more. So what else have we got here? The Joy Wilkerson who wrote this show, this episode, she actually wrote Nickleby, which was a show about being oppressed by a family member, and that seems to be a kind of a theme with this episode as well. It seemed to be that I don't know whether or not that's her particular writing style, but she's, from what I've seen of her, the things that she's written, she does seem to have this whole conflict inside, internal turmoil with the family. And I thought it was a good little thing with Becca Savage and Willa and her grandson. It was a family issue. But we had that last week with Demons of the Punjab. And that was good. But I think, again, this was kind of... It felt like an episode that we've already seen, but it doesn't matter because I still loved it. There were nice elements to this episode. I'm trying to think what the worst thing about this episode was, actually. Because Yaz had great moments, little nuggets. Ryan had great moments. Like I said, his moment with King James, that moment for me stole the show. Alan Cummings was excellent in this. Siobhan Finneran. Is that how you pronounce it? Finneran? She was great. I hated the guts out of that woman. So, yeah, I thought the character of Willa seemed like a very genuine character, very stressed out, down-to-earth girl. Yeah, it was all good. If I'm going to rate this episode, if we talking about, I said last week that this series would have to be, for this series to get a pass, that every episode from episode 7 to episode 10 would have to be a 9 for this series to get by. To sort of be on this is a good series. Graham in the hat had to laugh. But Graham mucks in. He's that sort of character. Graham is he cuts through all the crap. He just gets down to it. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows the crack then. But he's able to cut through all the crap. He's able to focus on the important things. But he's also a great deal of fun, and that's what makes Graham such a great character. To be honest, the Sonic Magic Wand driver was probably the only real bad point. Yeah, there's very little bad with this episode. I hope there's a really good series ending. I think, from what we've previously discussed about where this series is going, and not necessarily in this review, but in my previous and since the first episode, my feeling on where this series is going is saying goodbye to Graham. I think that's I think that's where it's leading up to. I really feel like this entire series is setting everybody up for Graham's demise. Graham saying Tarantino destroyed me. Yeah, he has those little moments, and Bradley Walsh finds the pitch. He really does find the pitch for delivery, whereby it's a little bit of sarcasm. It's dry, but it's sincere. He means it. When he says Tarantino, he's not even thinking that King James doesn't know who Tarantino is. It's just like he's just setting the record straight. But yeah, so if I'm gonna give this episode a rating, I give Demons of the Punjab probably the highest rating I've given this season, and that was an 8.5. This episode's a 9. This episode is a 9. There's very, very little wrong with it. Good pacing, good action. It could have done with a little bit more depth, so I'm going to rob it of a point for that. It could have done with a bit more of a shock scare, so I'm gonna leave that. I'd say half a point for I'd say half a point for the lack of depth and half a point for no real scare. But that makeup on that Morax Queen, with all the bladders under the makeup, and it was all undulating and pulsing. Oh, it looked good. And the like slate grey eyes. Oh, that was a good looking character. I think everybody associates Bradley with the chase that so much that they didn't expect much from him in Doctor Who. I love his character. Do you know? I think if you were to go back, knowing Bradley Walsh, because like this is Bradley Walsh's second turn in the Doctor Who universe, right? He was in the Sarah Jane Adventures, so he became familiar with Doctor Who before he was in Doctor Who. But Bradley has done everything. Like we're talking about a guy who is Mr. Entertainment. He has done this. We're talking about a guy that if you wanted to hire him to come and speak at your party, he would probably say yes. He's a very down-to-earth, hard-working entertainer. He's done the Royal Variety. He's performed for the Queen. He's performed on any sort of entertainment show you can ever name. He's done quiz shows, panel shows. He's been the guest panelist. He's been the host. He's done albums. He's done absolutely everything. So, and he's done Law and Order as well. So he's done serious drama, and then you chuck him into a sci-fi. I think this is just kind of the BBC's way of going, cheers, Brad. And yeah, he is associated with the chase, but I think that the chase really sort of differentiates Bradley from Graham, because you can really see how much of a cheeky sort of lad Bradley Walsh is compared to how much of a seasoned, balanced person Graham is. So yeah, Chris, Path UK, give it 9.2. Do you know? It's in that ballpark. Like I said, I gave it a 9 because again, half for not enough death and half for not enough jump scare. I did like the whippy sort of tendrily things that come out of the ground, but I would have liked it if they would have actually tried to grab somebody's ankle as they were running away, try to sort of, or even trip somebody over and then start pulling them back and then have them escape. So yeah, just a little bit of extra, that's all. a little bit of pepper on the steak doesn't do it any harm. His portrayal of Graham is better than the Fanny Schmeller incident. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I'm going to give this episode a 9. It was by far, this is the most rewatchable episode of Doctor Who that they have made this season, and the rewatchable because I didn't like Capaldi season 8. I thought he'd done a better job season 9. I enjoyed season 10. Out of the past 4 years, I would say this is one of the most, not necessarily memorable, but this is a fun rewatch. This is a really good rewatchable episode. I would put it up there with Heaven Sent. I would put it up there. It's not necessarily in terms of good storytelling, but there's something about this episode that just took you through. It took you for a ride. It took you for a ride. Everybody went along with it. You had Alan Cummings giving it hell for leather, chewing as much scenery as he could, and then bringing it down to a nuanced performance. It was just rocking and rolling. I think that I'm going to leave that there. So it felt like Doctor Who. It did. Again, look, my biggest complaint with this episode was the fact that it didn't have a Doctor Who theme. It didn't have the Doctor doesn't have her own theme in this show. And that is I really noticed it in this episode more than any other episode. I never really thought about it in terms of the Doctor having her own theme, but not having that dun 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 dun, not having that, or having an equivalent of that, it hasn't done this character any favors. I loved the Ghost Monument when the Doctor felt that she'd failed everyone. It was a good moment, yeah. Graham was the first one to object and say we're not giving up. Yeah, but my problem with what Jodie has been given in those sorts of terms is that this Doctor has made a lot of mistakes this season. Like if you look at how many mistakes this Doctor has made, it's kind of like, you know, you like your character to be flawed, but how flawed? Like this character is supposed to be the most experienced Doctor we've had. You know, this is the 13th incarnation of the Doctor. Should she really be tripping over her own laces now? And if she's going to be that character, then go for it. If you're gonna make this character, like we know, look, Matt Smith was the sort of the goofy klutz, right? He was the all arms and legs kind of Doctor, like a spider on a hot plate. You know, David Tennant was sort of the commander. He was sort of the runner. Christopher Eccleston was the stern sort of I'm a tortured soul Doctor. And Peter Capaldi was the teacher, the instructor, the headmaster. So what is Jodie's Doctor? Who is Jodie's Doctor? I think she's finding it. I think she's still finding it. But so going back to the whole, you know, what would happen if Jodie left next year? It would only harm Jodie again. It's only Jodie it would hurt. It's not going to hurt the Doctor because the Doctor will just regenerate and it'll be somebody else. She's everyone's mum. Yeah, I see. I don't know because she doesn't really. Because if she was my mum, then my mum would be stepping into that situation and giving somebody a clip behind the ear and saying, "Cut it out." So she's not even that. She's more like a sister. You're just taking the piss. Yeah, but if I had to categorize her right now, she's still finding her feet and she needs to find it quick. Then I would actually separate her from the companions just to do like Because I think what turned Capaldi around for Series 10 was what they did with Heaven Sent, whereby they just put him inside the confession dial, and it was just him alone by himself. I think that's what made that episode a masterpiece. Because before that, I really wasn't interested. Dalek Asylum, I thought was... Enter the Dalek was crap. Robot of Sherwood, rubbish. Kill the Moon, kill the bloody right there. Yeah, Velma, that sort of character at the moment. Again, she's still not finding it. She just doesn't know where. She's looking at the script. She's trying to work out what the writers have given her. Because like Jodie's not a Doctor Who fan. She wasn't a Doctor Who fan to begin with. So she's really sort of trying to work out what the hell it is that they've given her on the page. But I do like her the most. The most parallels that I can draw between Jodie Whittaker and anyone is the second Doctor. She's so much like Patrick Troughton because he had the same sort of approach. So I can understand why there would be a similarity, because he approached it from the same sort of way. But there is a big parallel between Jodie and Troughton. You know, he was the first regeneration. She's the first woman to regenerate. He started off being with amnesia and trying to work out who his character was. She did that. Exactly the same thing. So there are a lot of parallels between the two. He started using a sonic screwdriver. She hasn't stopped using a sonic screwdriver. So yeah, I'd be sad to see Jodie leave, but as you say, it's only her, and only her would be losing out. Yeah, because like it's not going to hurt the show. It's not going to. The worst thing about this is that if she does leave, she would be giving in to all those people that have said, "Oh, you shouldn't have cast a woman to begin with," which is bullshit. I'm sorry to tell you that is bullshit, because they were going to cast a woman before they cast Sylvester McCoy. Sylvester McCoy only got cast because the person that was in charge of doing Time in the Rani happened to like Sylvester McCoy. He happened to be a Sylvester McCoy fan. And I don't think John Nathan Turner knew Sylvester McCoy really. But that's how he got cast. You could actually check that out. It's on the Paradise Towers DVD, where they actually talk about how he got cast in the show. And again, when Joanna Lumley played the Doctor in the what's it called, Curse of Fatal Death, Joanna Lumley was the Doctor. Like she was playing it for laughs, but she told me I didn't think this is stupid. You can't have the Doctor as a woman. I thought Joanna Lumley's the Doctor. Go for it. So yeah, so if she did leave, it would only be given in to all the haters and the naysayers. And if she wants to prove her point and say, you know, I'm the Doctor, and she really wants this part, then she should stick it out. I know she said that she wants to spend time with her family. She shouldn't have taken it. If that's the case, she shouldn't have taken the role to begin with. I mean, look, it's a long time. You're spending a long time making this show. You're talking 8 months of your life, and she's had to relocate from London to Cardiff. I mean, she's staying in a lovely hotel in Cardiff. It's a 5-star hotel, but it's still, you know, she only gets to see her family for a limited amount of time per week. So, and she's got a young family as well. So I think if she does want to leave on that grounds, then maybe she probably shouldn't have taken the job to begin with. But my whole thing of should the Doctor be a woman, it doesn't make a blind bit of difference to the character as long as you nail the character, and it's not going to hurt anyone but the actors if they leave. What hotel Yeah, not the TARDIS. If you saw the hotel, you wouldn't think so. It wouldn't burst your bubble at all. It's a very nice hotel. It's a very expensive hotel as well. That's why half the budget of the episodes of the BBC. That's why they can't afford the futuristic costumes. It's because they put in people up in that hotel. But I've had a thoroughly good time chatting about this episode. I thank you all, guys, for showing up. I will be back again 8 o'clock next week for the next episode of Doctor Who. And I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to say thank you all for showing up. If you like this video, then please do give me the thumbs up. Share the video if you will. And if you are watching this after the live stream, then leave your comments down below. If I see the comments, I will respond in some fashion, whether it's with a thumbs up, a heart, or a comment or a reply. But until next time, guys, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me at this stream, and I will see you later, guys.